Okay, so how do we have more power in our voice? So today's episode is going to be a very key and fundamental episode when it comes to building your voice, similar to some of the episodes previously where we talked about isolating the stretch. Because yes, we are talking about building more power, we are talking about singing stronger, but if we really dive deep, we're actually taking a very fundamental mechanism of the voice. Now, I have previously talked about this in episode number 2, where we talk about building more power, but today we're going to dive a lot deeper and help you really understand the core mechanism when it comes to building more power. And I'm also going to give you an exercise that's going to make it so clear for your brain what exactly we need to do to build more power. And no, it is not just about flexing your abs, clenching your butt, opening your mouth more. There's a lot more to it. Let's dive deeper. Now, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan. I'm a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world. And really on this channel, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So if that is something that is up your lane, consider subscribing. And if you're feeling a bit frustrated with your voice or you want to improve faster, check out some of the links down in the description. I've got ways to work with me and also some self-study courses that you can take. And last but not least, if you want to inspire our next episode just like today's question, then let me know down in the comments below what you want me to talk about next. So let's tackle a misconception when it comes to building power. One of the most common advice is sing from the belly more. Flex those abs a bit more, clench those butts a bit more. Or maybe some of you have heard, hey, you need to open your mouth a bit more. Now, whilst this is well-intentioned advice, for the right person, this actually could give some results. There are a lot of us who have tried this advice. We've tried to flex the abs, but no matter how we kind of approach it or, how we kind of try to use this advice, we don't really see the results and our voice kind of stays frail. It's probably not strong enough and it's hard for us to build power. And maybe when we do start to build some power, we start to run into the opposite problem. We start to push, we start to yell, we start to get all shouty, and we start to run into a different problem altogether. Now, the reason why is this. Simply tensing up your abs, adding more air, adding more breath support, opening your mouth alone, that alone does not create more power in your voice. And when you start to understand how the voice does this, you'll start to realize why this is the case. So let's talk about it a bit more. So in the past few episodes, I've talked a lot about isolating the stretch. This is a key fundamental mechanism to allow you to sing high notes, which is literally, if you want to sing higher, your vocal folds, they need to stretch and become longer. This is how we sing higher notes. And what this also means is, if we don't have this, singing high notes is going to be much more challenging. And really, when I'm guiding a lot of my students through their singing journey, this is a big part of our work, getting them to understand how it feels like to stretch their vocal folds. Now, there's also a very key fundamental mechanism to bring and create more power as well. And when you understand this, this is also going to make singing a lot easier. When you want to sing stronger, you know exactly what you need to do. And this mechanism is called chord closure. Some people might call it compression. Some people might call it adding connection to the vocal folds. All of this basically means this. If you look at your vocal folds, one of the functions, as I said before, is a stretch, but another one is how tightly they press together, how much time they spend together and resist airflow. Think of it like letting air out in a balloon. If you kind of just let the air out, you're not kind of doing anything, the air will just gush out. But then, at the neck of it or the nozzle, if you kind of press in and you add a bit of pressure, it starts to create this kind of high-pitched squeal. This is basically what happens when we're singing and creating a sound. There's this tandem of air meeting a certain resistance, which is what creates the initial vibration or buzz of your voice. And this is also why I said at the beginning, it's not just about sending more air. It's not just about opening your mouth more. It's not just about tensing, because that neglects one of the key components of creating a sound, which is this chord closure component. And in fact, often when you kind of get the chord closure to kind of work its thing out, all of those other pieces of the puzzles will start to come together as well, especially the breath with the vocal folds. Often when we're singing, the louder you want to sing, you need to recruit more breath pressure against those vocal folds, which also close a bit more. And likewise, when you're singing a lighter sound, you're sending less air, you're actually releasing the air a lot slower, and there's less chord closure as well. So there's this kind of balancing act that you have when it comes to creating a sound. So now that we understand the theory, how the voice works, you understand the core mechanism of how we actually create a sound, then all we need to do is we need to find an exercise that helps us isolate this feeling. Because if we know what it feels like to close the chords, and across all the different nuances, because your chords aren't either just open or closed. There is all these nuances that they can have. This is what's going to be really important for us when it comes to singing. Because then all of a sudden, if I want to add more power, all I need to do is just engage a bit more of this mechanism. So let's just start off by choosing a note that's very comfortable for us. And we're going to use the word mum, right? Just use the word mum. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this word mum. And then feel free to choose another word. Doesn't really matter here too much. And I'm going to try to increase the volume of the word by slightly pronouncing the M, the of the word mum, a bit harder each time. Now, try to do this with me. We're going to start a bit softer. As I'm going a bit louder, I'm trying to add a bit more pressure with my lips. Now, what's going to be really important here is you have to observe what else is happening, right? Because of all the sensations that's happening in your body, one of them is going to be a good cue for you in terms of feeling this, right? The more I feel that sensation, the more I know that the chords are closing. For me personally, I feel like there's a stronger buzz, and I also feel there's a stronger kind of handshake between my body and my sound and my vocal folds. And what that results in is a thicker kind of coarser buzz in my voice. Now, it's really important when you are doing this exercise, try not to change the way you pronounce the word, right? For example, try not to go like where you just try to artificially darken the sound, or you might kind of go you kind of squeeze it. Try to keep it exactly the same, because what this allows us to do is allows us to truly isolate the feeling of adding more connection versus getting distracted by another sensation because we've actually changed the word. When you can really get this down, then learning how to add power becomes really simple, because if you're like, hey, I want to sing with a bit more power, boom, I know the exact mechanism to do this. And this is why voice training is really helpful. It just allows us to understand some of these key mechanisms in the voice and allow us to control them. Now, also, as you are getting better at this, most likely your perception or how you define this kind of connection, how you feel it, it will change over time. And this is simply something that just happens as you build more awareness. And as you start to filter out all the unnecessary sensations that you need, just keep asking yourself, how does it actually feel like to add more connection? And when you are actually pretty good at this, even asking yourself, how can I add even more? That's going to allow you to sing with even more connection and even more power. Now that is a wrap, team. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If you found value, please support this channel by hitting that like or share. Or if you're joining me from my podcast, make sure to leave a review. This would really help the channel grow. And it's a really small act you can do to support this channel even further. Now, if you've gone through this episode, or maybe you're still working in your voice and you feel a bit confused, you feel like, hey, I'm not really seeing the results that I want, don't feel like you have to do this on your own. Reach out to me. You can check out some of the links down in the description below. I've got ways to work with me. I personally help students with this all the time. So this is something we can absolutely improve with your singing. Apart from that, my name is Ivan. I'm your voice teacher, and I'll see you every single Thursday or Friday for our weekly tutorials just like this. Take care.